Hi, Dennis Weiss for Eagle Communications. Welcome to our town. We have a great story for you. We're at the Great Plains Theater, and we are talking about quilts for hospice, a topic I'll bet you know more than me about until today, because today was the day I learned. So we have a couple guests. We have Anna Googler, Judy Hilton, and we're going to talk about quilting a lot, about hospice quite a little, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You know, we're going to show people a lot of quilts too, but we only have the one on the table they're seeing right at the moment. So tell me who you are, why you did this, and why you turned a hobby into the hospice project, and then we'll just have a conversation. You first.
Oh, me first.
Yes.
Well, I'm Anna Googler, and I've lived in Abilene for over 40 years. My grandmother was a quilter, and my mother was a quilter. So I grew up around making quilts from scrap fabric. And then when I was working and had a family, that went by the wayside a little bit, not totally, but some. Then after I retired, I joined the End of the Trail Quilters Guild and found out that they had a hospice project. Every patient that enters hospice was given a quilt donated by members of the Guild and others.
Very cool.
And that really tugged at my heart, so I decided to become part of the committee.
Okay.
To do hospice.
Judy?
Well, I think, Anna, your story kind of echoes mine, because as a girl growing up, I watched my grandmother and great-grandmother sew, and I even now have a quilt that my mother made when she was a girl, and that's a real treasure to have that. But I had never quilted, and I was like you, raising a family, and it wasn't until I retired that I thought, okay, well, if you're not going to do it, when are you going to do it, you know, or you'll never really make a quilt or get into quilting. And so it was after retirement.
Okay. I find it so interesting that this quilting and hospice project is going on, because when I grew up, we called them quilts while they were being made, but we called them comforters when they were done and had all the backing and were on the bed. So, you know, comforter and the project to make the hospice people
comfortable. Yes.
That's what a natural.
That was one of the motivations for the Quilt Guild. In 1997, they lost a member to her battle with cancer. That was Levon Geist. And they thought, well, we know that the quilts provide comfort, and we want to provide that for others in her memory. And that's what started the project of giving the quilts. So.
Okay, for people that don't know a thing about quilts, there's a lot of work in these things. So here's what I know, because my mom made baby blankets, made quilts, made crocheted baby blankets, and probably the biggest one she made, well, I can remember it anyways, probably this size, just a nice little baby blanket. But we had old quilts in her house that somebody else had made, her mom had made, my father's mom had made. So there's an heirloom piece of this quilting, and there's a lot of cutting scrap fabric, which requires you to have bags of scrap fabric. So I think the most interesting thing, Mom never turned down anybody's fabric. Just, yes, sure, and it turned into a quilt somewhere.
Some of our tools have changed over the years because you talk about cutting, and I remember at a babysitter, my job was to take the little cardboard square, cut it around with scissors. We don't do that now. Somebody may, but there are more streamlined ways of doing it. So
I'm sure there are, but we could get one channel for a little while down in the Rocky Mountain Canyon in which we lived, and it depended on where the sundown was going on. But Mom would sit in her chair and cut squares out with good sharp scissors.
A lot of us had that memory.
She would look at me and I'd cut squares out while we watched TV. But I didn't sew them together because not so good there.
That was her job.
And we had a little Singer sewing machine. It's still in my family. Kind of looks like your box over there. I'm guessing that's what's in it.
That's what it is. I'll show that to you later.
Okay,
yes.
but what a legacy quilts are anyway.
Oh, yes.
But quilts for hospice, that's kind of a big deal. So how many people are involved in this project?
Well, the guild itself, in 1996, started with 6 founding members, and then 25 charter members, and that was the beginning of the guild. Then today we have 70 members, and that's both women and men. We have men who are in our group, and we have all ages. We have your 4-H kids, we have people in their 90s, we have all generations, like a mother, her daughter, and daughter-in-laws.
Oh, very cool.
We've had 3 generations, a mother, grandmother, and daughter. So that's what makes it interesting, is to have that perspective from all those different ages. And then they wanted to have this service project, and that was when I was telling you about Levon Geist.
Okay.
They started with 29 quilts that they donated the first year, and in that 20-year period now we have given over 1,000 quilts to hospice.
1,000 quilts. That's outstanding.
Quite a few, yes.
That's outstanding. So how many stitches do you think?
Right. How many?
Oh, how many millions? Millions and millions.
Big number.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Big number.
And some, a lot of the quilts now are machine quilted. Back in the old days, it was hand quilted because there was no such thing. And this quilt, for instance, has been machine quilted, and there are beautiful designs that the call them long arm quilters put into these quilts. And sometimes the quilting is as stunning as the fabric.
Well, you know, you see, there's events for everything today, right? So, but quilting you see fairly frequently. You know, the Crafts Festival, they have a big quilting section. They have people out doing all of this and putting on a show. They have quilting shows. So it's no surprise that it's in Abilene, Kansas, because about everything good is here somewhere in our town.
Absolutely.
But it always amazes me when you sit with the people who produce the quality and produce the work of any kind to make life better for somebody else. It's always a treat.
Yeah. We have our guild puts on a quilt show biannually, every 2 years in March, and we're having one come up this March of 2018. And we generally show around 300 quilts that guild members have made, and of all sizes. There are big ones and there are little wall hangings. And we have a silent auction where folks can come and buy things, and that money goes to home health and hospice, half of it, and then half of it goes to the Historical Society.
Okay.
So we have our own quilt show, and there are some quilt shows that are massive, massive things. So.
It's interesting to me. I get to film a lot of programs of people in town doing good things for other people. But quilts today are not the first time I've heard about quilts and good things for other people recently. So I've heard of a project where barn quilts is going to happen. I didn't know the name of your guild really until you said it a while ago, earlier before the camera comes. End of the Trail.
End of the Trail.
End of the Trail, Abilene, Kansas, America is End of the Trail.
Which they wanted to take in the history and acknowledge the history of the Chisholm Trail. They picked the name for that.
I'm pretty sure you're going to be doing something for the Chisholm Trail thing with quilts.
We haven't been approached yet, but yeah, I would think there will be quilts down there, because that was, you know, quilts were just part of the fabric of life, if you will. Back in those days, the homesteaders women didn't have a whole lot of time, especially right at first, to quilt, but they brought quilts with them.
I guarantee you see the movies with the wagon train, you know, the Conestoga wagon, the wood boxes in there. I guarantee you inside that wood box was a quilt, or 2 or 3, whatever they had access to, because that was the ability to stay warm in the cold, and it was handed down. That's how they got out here.
Oh yeah.
That's how quilting came here. It came in somebody's wagon.
They would do that. It would pad that old wooden wagon seat, which was so hard. If a dust storm came up, it served as a curtain over the hole in the end of the Conestoga, and they would stuff it in the cracks so the dust wouldn't come. And the same way when they got out here, the first thing you had to do was build a shelter, and you used whatever you had for the door and whatnot. A lot of times that was the quilts that were made.
Well, it's a great history. Almost everything in Abilene that we talk about lately, somebody in your chair tells me about how what they do is important to the history of Abilene, and today we can safely say that this is no exception. Quilting is very significant to the history of Abilene, the end of the trail quilters, and what you're doing to preserve the quality of life here with your hospice project. That's of interest to people out there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the most famous resident of Abilene, President Dwight Eisenhower, his mother was an avid quilter. And there are some of her quilts at the Eisenhower Center, and then there are quilts around town that people have purchased and are preserving that she worked on.
I went, I believe it was last year when Eisenhower hosted the quilting show.
I think, well, I was thinking of the Ida Stover quilt show that the Historical Society has.
They do that every year, and again, it's an amazing collection of works of art that quilters have made.
So you told me you had 3 generations. You told me it was 70 people, including gentlemen who are quilters. There has to be some interesting stories there. So, but I'm going to lead you to a story. How do you get new people to want to come join your club? You'll do it today by looking out there and saying, if you want to learn how to quilt, come see me. Okay, so, but from there, you have to have some good stories about people who just showed up and said, I want to learn how to quilt.
Well, and that's exactly what we are all about. You do not have to be a quilter. You don't even have to ever make a quilt to come and appreciate the quilting and help. We have people that come to, we have an annual Sewing for Service Day in January over Martin Luther King weekend. And there are some that never make a stitch, but they press, they cut fabric, they trim, just run errands for everybody. So there's a role for anybody that's interested in quilts to come. And most of the time it's word of mouth. We do publish our Quilt Guild meetings in the newspaper.
Okay.
They are the 4th Tuesday of the month, 7 p.m. at First United Methodist Church here in Abilene.
Okay.
And all are welcome. We would love to have many, many guests.
Okay.
So come see us.
You had a good story about our gentleman. Tell it here.
Oh, yes.
Well, we were talking about Bill Sexton. I hope he doesn't mind that I've mentioned his name.
I'm sure he won't.
But I don't know how he bought this sewing machine, but he bought a sewing machine just a few years ago. And he is, I think, somewhere in his late 80s when he brought this wonderful gift home to his wife, and he said, you know, look what I brought for you to use. And she went, I'm not doing it. I don't want anything to do with this. So he thought, well, I've already bought this sewing machine. I'm just going to have to learn myself how to use this. So he did.
He did.
And he is one of our most prolific hospice quilt producers. He is always making one, and it's just wonderful to have Bill in our group.
Yeah, that's cool. You also told me he was an active farmer, and you know now he needs something to do with his hands. What a great way of turning a need to do something into a gift for somebody else.
Oh yes, absolutely.
That has to be very rewarding for Mr. Sexton, I would think.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding for us too to.
Absolutely, and sometimes that's the greatest reward you have, is giving that quilting, seeing that quilt give comfort to someone and their families. We received a quilt when my mother-in-law was ill and through hospice, and all 3 of my grandchildren have played on that quilt.
Yeah.
And every time I put that down, I remember the quilter.
That's very good.
And it's a very heartwarming legacy, I think.
Okay. Ladies, we're going to take a short break. We're going to throw a commercial in here, and then we'll come back and we'll go down the quilting road again.
Yes.
We'll be right back.
Around here, we believe in local values like hard work, family time, or a fair price on reliable internet from a local company. That's why Eagle Communications delivers great local values, like a range of internet options to fit your family's needs. Fast and consistent enough to power everyone's devices at once, all at reasonable prices we're proud to offer our friends and neighbors. Ready for better internet? Give us a call or visit eaglecom.net and discover our local values today.
Hi, Dennis Weiss, back with the Quilters down here at Great Plains Theater. Thank you to Great Plains for always letting us shoot in here. So we put a few props on the table so we can finish off the second half of our show. We have Anna Googler, Judy Hilton to talk about all things quilting. Thank you for putting my favorite thing in front of me because my mom's sewing machine is identical to this one. My oldest daughter Tricia has it, loves it, cherishes it, sews on it. Talk about an artifact that goes through the generations. This has to be one of the most important machines ever built in my book.
Absolutely. The first patent for a sewing machine was in the year 1755. Long time ago. They were very crude machines and they were used for sails on sailboats and leather. But the most famous name in sewing is Singer. Isaac Singer patented his sewing machine in 1851, and that was the treadle machine. It was foot operated. You didn't need electricity.
Right.
And the sewing machine, and then in the mid-1800s, fabric, the Industrial Revolution was going on, and fabric was mass-produced, far more accessible, and so with more fabric and sewing machines in the home, clothing production and quilting really was on the uptick.
You know,
much easier to make.
We talk about this on this show all the time about Abilene, about our area, and then what's important in life. And this machine, I have sewn on the identical machine, the Singer Portable. Mom taught me how to sew.
Featherweight. It's called featherweight.
And so I just did rudimentary things, you know, didn't do anything like this, but I was always fascinated at the mechanical aspect of that sewing machine. I could sit there for hours. It's fascinating. It's little distance control, how far the foot moves, all of that stuff's so cool, so wonderful. But what a historical thing to be used for good today. You know, we left off right before the break, you was talking about Bill Sexton. We have a quilt over there that Dave will superimpose a picture on while we're talking about that. But these things are how good happens. But good happens when you ladies stitch it together. Have a dream, have a plan, go do the work, make good things happen. And quilting is that.
Yes, it is.
Okay, tell us. Explain to the people, and we'll take camera shots of this stuff.
We'll do the process. This is a 9-patch block. This is probably the most well-known quilting block around. It can be made into many things, and you wouldn't even know it was a 9-patch. We have a favorite pattern called a disappearing 9-patch. You make one of these, then you cut it in quarters like this.
Okay, so you took a 9-patch and you cut it into quarters.
Cut it into quarters.
Okay.
Then you rearrange, you flip the 2 diagonals, sew it back together, and it becomes this. The 9-patch has disappeared, and it makes it very interesting depending on the fabrics and whatnot. So we go from—
You hold that one up, I'll hold this one up.
Yeah. We go from a plain 9-patch, which are beautiful, to a disappearing 9-patch.
Now that's cool.
Yes. The quilt behind us here is also a disappearing 9-patch, but it's made on a huge scale. You use 10-inch squares, and you make 9 patches, but between each square you put, this is called a sashing. Then you cut it in quarters and rearrange, and you come up with this. This is another disappearing 9-patch. And we have several variations of that in the kits that we make. So it's fascinating how you can cut things up and rearrange them.
So when did you get your engineering degree?
No.
Oh, yes. That's my point. It's the same as building design.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you take a square cinder block, or a square brick, or a round rock with mortar around it. You end up with a beautiful building and a facade. That's quilting in rock or quilting in bricks and mortar.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
My husband does a lot of woodworking.
Okay.
And we have frequently said woodworking and quilting are very similar because you're taking this pattern and creating something, you know, in measurements and, like you say, the square up and coming up with a...
Measure twice, cut once. It goes for all kinds
That's
of
why I failed at quilting, by the way. Mom would let me cut, but that was after she handed me the little piece of cardboard, which was the measure, which made the measure even too hard for me to screw up, right? Too easy for me to screw up. I don't have a level or a square at my house. I think there actually is one out in the barn, but all my children have been told not to bring it around me because I'm allergic to levels and squares. I'm a natural born cowboy, and you don't use levels or squares in any of that business. That's right. If it's close enough or the ends together, we're not making pianos here. So,
there we go.
That's what we do. That keeps me in trouble most of my life and everything else like you do, though. So I can sit here and say how much I appreciate this, and I get to make this. So when did you get your engineering degree? Because to me, it really is.
Yeah,
the ability to put that, I can do it in my head. I can put it in a spatial analysis project up here, and I can see how to do what you just said. But when it gets to my fingers, it just fails. So I so admire what you do.
Well, we try to make it easy for members to make a quilt, and
well, you don't do that first day.
Actually, that would be a very good first quilt.
What?
Oh yes, oh yeah.
You're just saying that to make me feel bad.
You come to our next quilting day, and we will show you. We will show you. You will make a block.
I can make a block.
Well, that's all it takes.
Well, not for me, because you said I have to cut that apart and turn it into these squares and then turn it around.
Big mats that have the measurements all marked.
You just don't know the challenge.
You don't do it freehand.
You just don't know the challenge you're facing. After I got that stitched together, it would take a crew of wild men, all with big guns, to make me want to cut it apart.
I got you together and not taking it apart.
That's right.
You don't have to. You can put it just like that. It would be.
Well, I would have to want to do that, because I would not cut apart the good work I just done, because the chance of me doing it right twice are nil.
Yeah, there's one lady that has this wonderful saying in our Quilt Guild about fabric, and some fabric is very lovely and some's not so great, but she said there's no fabric that's so ugly. If you don't cut it up small enough, you can make it beautiful in a quilt.
Isn't that something? Okay, Dave gave me the 2 minutes, which is just enough time to say goodbye a little bit. So, but let's use that. There's no piece of fabric that's too ugly that you can't cut it up a little bit and sew it into something and make it beautiful. Is that not the human existence?
I think so.
All of us are so flawed as individuals, but work a little bit with an individual and put them in a group. You can turn out something beautiful. Isn't that something?
It is.
Okay. Well, gosh, I told you 25 minutes goes like that, didn't I?
It does. It does.
So when we get done here, we're going to shoot a little 5-minute thing so you can show more of your stuff. But so appreciate knowing about your guild and about the work you do for Dickinson County Hospice. What a terrific project. People know about the hospice project, but they maybe didn't know you guys make quilts for them, and I guarantee you they didn't know Bill Sexton made 80 quilts for the project.
Well, not 80, but
he could easily do that.
Made 80.
Okay.
Yeah, 80 a
year.
Okay.
And, but yes, Bill is
he's
a
prolific.
good quilter. He's a
All
prolific quilter.
So we've learned a lot today. We had a lot of fun. We got to show some nice stuff, and Dave's going to take pictures so they see more of it than we think they're seeing.
All right.
Folks, we hope you'll see these ladies in the West Country Mart or at the store somewhere and say, hey, gosh, I saw you on TV. I'd love to learn how to at least make a little square like Mr. Weiss said. So come one, come all, have fun, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll have some information down here on the screen. You can contact these ladies. Thanks for watching today. We really enjoyed it. Anna Googler, Judy Hilton, I'm Dennis Weiss. You have a great day.